Well, again, happy New Year. 2018, here we are. And a blessed Epiphany to you. The Epiphany season runs from Christmas all the way through Lent, and through the beginning of Lent, I should say. And like so many in-house churchy words, the word Epiphany is Greek. Surprise, surprise. And the Greek word epiphany means to make known, or to be revealed, or to show forth. And so all the Sundays from now until the beginning of Lent, which I'm sorry to say is going to be on Valentine's Day this year, all this time will be spent thinking about the ways in which God's vision, God's love, has been and continues to be shown and made known and revealed in the world, particularly through Jesus, through the ministry and life of Jesus, and now through the gift of the Holy Spirit in us. It starts with Epiphany, which is the visit of the Magi, and these foreigners come from the east, as you remember, and present their gifts of gold and frankincense and myrrh. And it's the recognition of Jesus as the Messiah, as God's Son, by not just the people of Israel, but by people from the outside world. And so it's the first time that the Gentiles, if you wish, people like you and me, are made aware of this new thing, this new vision. We'll come back to Epiphany, but I want to share with you a few stories. As some of you, or maybe most of you know, Michelle and I and the kids got to go to Mexico for New Year's. My mother-in-law blessed us. She gave us a wonderful Christmas gift and took us all down, and my brother-in-law and his family, down to Mexico. And just our family, because we're kind of peculiar, spent a few days in Guanajuato, which some of you know. It's just north of Mexico City in the hilly country there. Beautiful, beautiful. And then we all met up in Cancun, which is more of a resort. My in-laws are more resort people. But that was fun too. It's a beautiful country. I've never been to Mexico before. I'd always wanted to go, and I was not disappointed. It is truly a beautiful country, and the people that we met were kind and generous and very hospitable. Guanajuato is, probably pronouncing that wrong, sorry for Spanish speakers, is an old colonial city built on silver mines, and it was really interesting. There were lots of tourists there, but most of the tourists were Mexican. There were very few of us gringos there, which was kind of good, actually, and we ate in hole-in-the-wall places and rode the local buses, which was an experience in itself. All my joints got repositioned once or twice, 3 or 4 times. And then, as I said, we ended up in Cancun, and one of the wonderful things we were able to do there was visit Chichen Itza, which is one of the great centers of Mayan religion, with the big step pyramids and beautifully and properly restored parts of it. And it was about 2 hours. The drive was about 2 hours from our resort to Chichen Itza and 2 hours back. And our driver, Angelio, was a wonderful guy, and we got to chat quite a bit. I sat in the front seat, and we were just sort of sharing what it's like. I shared what it's like to live in Oregon, and he shared what it's like to live in the Yucatan. I thought I had struggled and worked hard in my life, but nothing compared to what he and the majority of people, the workers, they call them in Mexico, struggle with. Yes, I've had my fair share of boring jobs while I was at college and afterwards making boxes and working in retail. But there was light at the end of my tunnel. He was telling me how there is a minimum wage in Mexico, so people are guaranteed a certain income. However, unlike in the United States, it's not by the hour, it's by the day. So you pay the minimum wage for a day's work, which may be 8 hours, but usually is 10 or more hours, and you don't get paid overtime, or if you work a holiday, you just get paid the same. 1 day off a week, generous 6 days vacation a year. Yeah, that's a different quality of life. One of the most startling questions that he asked me was, he said, so in Oregon, the water that comes out of the faucet, can you drink it? And I said, well, yes, of course. Their family has to buy bottled water, which is an added expense. No way do you want to drink the water that comes out of the faucet in most of Mexico. Some of the other stories we shared, he is hoping to go to Canada, take his family, and work there for a while, and then make some money, and then come back to Mexico. One of the things about Guanajuato is lots of old colonial churches, beautiful. Maybe one or two mini statues for me, but and I'm an unrepentant Protestant, so what can you do? But there was always somebody, or there were always bunches of people in the churches praying. And the other thing is that at the street corners, or sometimes outside people's private residences, there would be little grottos or little sanctuaries with maybe the Virgin Mary or Jesus, or Mary and Jesus, and flowers there, and candles that people lit, and whenever people passed, they'd make the sign of the cross. There was a sense in Mexico of the imminence of the divine all around, in these little shrines, in the number of churches all over the place, and just in the attitude of the people. And I was kind of reflecting and wondering whether this sense of the imminence of God in their lives and in the country had anything to do with the fact that their lives are such a struggle. Their lives are such a struggle. I wonder whether the two are linked. I'm not a sociologist or a psychologist, so it's just my gut guess. But, I wonder. I don't talk about myself, but I live, in comparison with the majority of the world's population, a very wealthy and privileged life. And it's certainly a blessing to have clean water that comes out of your faucet, and heating in the winter, and nice clothes, and I don't have to worry about food and all the rest of it. That is a blessing. But the downside of all of that wealth and privilege is a number of things. One is that it can lead me into the false assumption that actually I'm in control. Well, I've got all that I need, and I got it by my own hard work, and I can chart my own destiny. Right? That's more of a myth than a reality, isn't it? And the other thing that wealth does is that it separates me from the realities of the world. I mean, when was the last time I actually grew something and brought it to the table? I mean, yes, I have a few raised beds, and when I'm out there and dig a few weeds up for an hour or so, oh, my back, it's so sore, poor me. I'm not one of those people that has to work for 8, 10 or more hours in the fields in Oregon or down in California, that labor day after day after day to put the food onto my table. I have no idea. I'm separated. I'm separated from the very ground that gives me life. How is this all related to Epiphany? Well, as we said, Epiphany is about God revealing God's self to us, God's vision, God's love, God's hope for our lives, the reality of who we are. In the story of the Magi, we often so focus, don't we, on the three gifts, gold, frankincense, and myrrh. That's not the real gift of Epiphany. The real gift of Epiphany is Jesus, the face of God, the one who reveals to us who God is and what God is and what God's vision for our lives and our world truly is. That's the real gift. And we'll be thinking about the gift of God's vision for the next few weeks. But as I said, because I live a life of wealth and privilege, I often ignore it. God becomes sort of more like a hobby. You know, I pray when it's convenient, or I want God usually when I'm in trouble. And here's the key, isn't it? If I think back on my own life, the times when I've really wanted God have been the times when I've been in trouble, when I've been unsure, or I've been in pain, or I've been confused, or I need some sense of direction. When everything is going fine, and I'm like, thank you, God, I'm doing well, I'll be in touch if I need you, but right now I got this one. And yes, I've been told many times, praying is kind of useful. Opening the Bible once or twice a week might be helpful. Sort of like going to the gym for the soul. But how often do I really take that to heart or actually practice it truly? It's hard. It's hard. And only in the struggle do I really want. And so let me sort of wind this up, thinking about Epiphany. If God's gift to us is God's very self, is God's love, is God's presence, is God's vision, how do I find it? How do I know it? How do I get God's presence in my life? Well, there is no technical fix to this. There's no secret phrase. There's no secret discipline. I think all that it comes down to is heart. All that it comes down to is desire. And God will take care of the rest. There is no path to it, if you will. It's just wanting. It's just wanting. And how often do I really want God in my life? And so as we live through this Epiphany season, and as we begin this new year, how do we want God more and more? It's not that I'm wishing you a hard 2018, because God is usually found, God is usually wanted in the struggle. But here's a thought, maybe more for me than it is for you. But as I think about this coming year, maybe the call is to step outside more, outside of my comfort zone. Maybe try some things that will make me uncomfortable or uneasy. Maybe to put myself into situations where I don't really know what I'm doing and I don't have control. And maybe in doing that desire to want God, I might find it. Because it's only when we step out, it's only when we take risks, it's only when we are willing to be vulnerable that then we find, oh, I do need you. Actually, I do want you, God, after all. Because, you know what? I don't have this one down. I don't know where I'm going. I don't know if I have the resources to take this path. So maybe there are some things this year, maybe some unexpected things that will change you, that will call you to step beyond. And I'm not going to tell you not to be afraid. You probably should be afraid. Because taking risk, is dangerous. But God will be there. God will be there. And in that, I hope that you will find the desire to want God more and more. And in doing that God will reveal God's self more and more to you. So a blessed new year, and an even more blessed Epiphany.